Hello and welcome to the Top Contractor School Podcast, where we are dedicated to helping you achieve extraordinary growth and success by supplying you with the tools, resources, and support necessary to not only build profitable businesses, but to create a lasting impact on your families, companies, and communities. I am Eric Guy, Director of Learning and Development at TCS. Joining me today is actually one of our wonderful members, Mr. Jason Oberman from Diamond Solutions. He's the COO there. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, we had some little technical difficulties. I gather from how you were feeling about it that it happens to you quite a bit as it does to me. So thanks for being patient with that. But before we get too into this, Jason, tell us about your background, because I like what you guys are doing. You've been great members so far, but tell us about Diamond Solutions and then your role as COO.
Yeah, absolutely. So my role as COO, obviously we're asphalt concrete and national provider. But my role as a COO is I oversee sales. I started off initially in sales as the VP of sales. And then about a year into it, Parker, our CEO, asked if I would become COO and be over operations as well. And so now I oversee operations and sales, which is a lot of fun. And we've done some really interesting things over there in other companies that I've worked with that's been different, where it's always been keep sales and operations completely separate. Like, don't even let them talk to one another.
Right.
Some of the situations I've been in. And I said, well, if I ever get in that position, I'm going to change that up. And we've done that over the last probably year now, and it's been one of the biggest, I think, pluses for us, both from operations and sales. Just the teamwork that it has fostered has been pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that is tricky, and we'll get into that. We'll get into that in your team. But how did you get into contracting, and how did you get into pavement and concrete?
Yeah, that's an interesting journey. Well, I kind of grew up in the construction industry. My dad had a very successful construction company that built homes, renovations here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so I grew up in it. I ran his company for a period of time. Then I actually kind of stepped into the nonprofit world for a number of years, working on organizational change and consulting, pretty much in that part of that sector. Then I moved into the for-profit world in sales and for a new home builder. So back into some of the construction, but on the sales side. And then I moved up in there to manage communities. I was offered a position of VP of sales, which oversees sales and operations, although it's very separate in that industry. And then moved into real estate. Better Homes and Gardens has a real estate sector. And so I went into that as VP of sales, worked there, loved that. A lot of exposure, a lot of opportunity. And then at that time, I'd met Parker, and for about 6 months, he kept calling me. And so he's like, hey, you want to come over with us? And I didn't want to leave, but situation kind of moved in a certain direction, and we started connecting more and more. And that's kind of how I found myself in asphalt and concrete. So I think it's just the background of organizational change, sales, understanding operations, and it's interesting. I mean, I went from real estate to asphalt and concrete, and he would told me, he's like, hey man, it's no big deal, man. You can do this. And it's been a good transition, a learning transition, but it's interesting how those things translate no matter what industry you're in.
So for those that are listening, especially like our TCS members, they're always wanting like tips and tricks. Do you know how he actually finally got you?
It's interesting. I remember I was flying back on the plane from New Mexico. I get a text from him, starts this 6 months. And what he did is he just kept calling me every month or so. And he would ask me things. Well, what do you think about this for the sales team? What's your thoughts on this? I said, well, this is what we do here. And, I was very into lead gen in the real estate sector, particularly with Zillow and Realtor.com. And so I would share some things, and he'd call back every 3 weeks. And then eventually we went out to dinner one time, and he just, it was just one of those things where consistency is what I say is undefeated. he was extremely consistent to reach out. And I think that's the thing. That's one thing I love about Parker, dude. When he gets set on something, he's like a bulldog. He's going to happen one way or another. And he will outlive you on it. So, and it was a good thing. It was definitely something that was, that I wanted to do, but I think it fostered that relationship, that connection, which he's great at. And, so it just kind of opened that opportunity, but it took some time because I was in a pretty good place.
Good. Well, thanks for letting us know about that. What gets you most fired up about the industry today?
I think just the potential. Like, I feel like this industry is untapped in so many ways. If you look at other industries and how technology hasn't really invaded it too much, even certain aspects to sales as it relates to technology and reaching into that realm. I think things as simple as, like, especially in the construction industry, I've seen, like, communication. Like, just the fact of being a great communicator can get you 100 steps ahead, whereas other industries have got that. And so I think things like that, it's just so powerful. It's like this open ocean of opportunity where if you can just be consistent to do certain things, I think you're going to have great success.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, from your experience, what's been the biggest challenge contractors face when trying to grow? I mean, you mentioned communication, which is a huge one, but
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, especially like owner operators. I think about, I've worked with a couple of visionaries that are in this situation where I've got to kind of come alongside and help them. I think it's a mind shift of, and I've heard you guys say this, of working on the business versus working in the business. I think that's really huge. Letting go of control is really big. And then I think that whole thing of just building systems, teams, and developing leaders. They've kind of been a one-man show, and I get it. It's awesome what they built, but in order to continue to grow, you've got to do something different than what you did to get to where you're at. And I think that's a powerful thing. And you've got to, it's hard. I get it.
what were the early signs from your perspective that Diamond was ready to scale? And like, how are you doing that kind of operationally?
Yeah. Yeah, so when I came in, they had gone through already kind of a major shift in their model, and it really created a boost in growth. I mean, that was one reason why I came in. And so it was interesting. When I came in, I began to look at systems and processes. So building out a sales system, using HubSpot to do that, getting everybody kind of on that page and utilizing that thing. Things like we have estimators that we go out. So we create an estimator manual. We scaled a process so that when we hired people, they knew exactly what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And it just created this thing of efficiency. So a lot of those things were things that I was working in because the growth had gotten to that point. And it was interesting because the last couple of years I've been here, we've had some growth, but it's been moderate. I think some of that is maybe the climate with the elections and different things. I think everybody was experiencing all kinds of stuff. And so we were just refining those systems, looking at them, simplifying them, and then adding them in. We were expecting to have much more growth than we did, but then we just had a change recently where we discovered some things and we started pushing a different direction. And now we're up 80% year over year in contract revenue.
Oh,
So it's amazing how these bursts come, but man, you need to get ready for that. And I think the scaling we did in those years that was kind of like, it was growing, but not growing that much, is really kind of helped us for where we're at today and kind of what we're stepping into. And even though it's still tension there.
yeah. You're one of the ones that I like to call on when we do the inner circle calls because you're already like fired up. I can almost tell sometimes when you're thinking there and getting excited about some things. But from your perspective, how do you kind of evaluate whether a system or process is actually working, like in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think if it runs without you and it gets consistent results, I'm excited about that.
Um, Advice you would give somebody scaling their company?
Wow. That's good. The one thing I heard a long time ago, and I think it's important as it relates to growth, is tethered approach. I think sometimes people try to blast off too fast and they get ahead of themselves. So I think, yeah, man, you've got to grow when you're growing. Like right now, we're up 80%. My production is like, I'm trying to figure out how to do some of these things, but it's that thing of, also not just bigger, but better, right? Like, what are we building? Right. Cause you don't want to go so fast and then you blow up, you're the shooting star, here today, gone tomorrow. One of the things that I thought about, just related to this type of thing is look at ways to kind of simplify what you're doing for first. Everybody kind of overcomplicates things, but it's like, look at what you're doing right now. Where's the complexity? How do you simplify things? Because a lot of times they jump to these big pieces, and it's sometimes just start where you're at, look where those things are. I think the other thing is this: build your people. I think people miss that. Like even now as we're growing, I'm like, I've been investing in Parker. He's got the same heart and mind, investing in leaders. And so our leaders are ready to carry this just big jump, this big move for us, right? But we've been sowing into it, right? It's been consistent. So it's not going to catch us with our pants down, so to speak. And so I think building people in your business, building leaders in your business, there's different ways you can do that, things that we've done too as well. But I think that's huge, because as you scale and as you grow, man, those leaders need to be able to scale with you as well in order to take that to the next level. So those are just a couple of things that I think about when it talks about, just that whole thing of growing.
Yeah, well, good segue, Jason. Appreciate that. Because let's jump into people, culture, leadership. What's your philosophy when it comes to building a team that grows with the company? I mean, you're obviously in the midst of this huge growth right now. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am huge on team. And I'm huge on having folks that are staying with us for the long term, that are committed. And so, my philosophy on that is teamwork makes the dream work. And I really believe in that. I believe that we sow into that. And one of the things that we share with our teams is, as the company grows, you're going to grow, right? We want to see you grow financially, right? Like if we're growing as a company, we want to see you be blessed and grow too as well. But then also in aspects of your leadership, in aspects of your personal, your goals, all that type of stuff. And so we really look at those things as kind of powerful pieces. And I know that when you can create a team that is unified, you're immovable. Nothing's impossible. This is one of my famous sayings that I say to our guys at our leadership trainings and stuff. The answer is in the room. And I've seen that so many times, that when you come in there and say, guys, this is the issue, how do we do this? And everybody collectively is united around that. There's these pieces that come, and it's just absolutely amazing and phenomenal that if you've got the right people on that team, that the answer is somewhere in the middle of that, or pieces of it. And I think that's really powerful. So the investment of that is, I think it's huge.
What other kind of things are you doing, especially right now, to develop leaders inside the company?
Yeah, I mean, things that we've done for the last several years is, we do things like in our teams, like sales and operations. We have a book we read every single quarter, sometimes 4 to 5 books a year. And so we're reading it together, and then we do takeaways every single week. And so those books might be focused on leadership. Right now we're doing one on finances, personal finances, on how to grow and get ready for the future. So really just pouring into our people and sowing into them in that context. Some of the things that I do right now, and I love this type of stuff, but I will get like little Instagram type leadership videos, those little 30-second, 1 minute. And I literally put them in the box every single week from operations and sales. I just set them up on a timeline. I do 5 of them for the week. And then every single morning at 7 a.m., they're going to have that dropped in their inbox. And it's going to be some sort of motivational, video by David Goggins, or, something else. And so just putting that in and sowing into them. I think in our L10 meetings that we do on a weekly basis, and when we can, trying to bring some sort of leadership principle or something to the table. And so those are some things that we've been very proactive. Books, one of the things that we do, like when people join us, there's 2 books, and this happened to me years ago, and I implemented it here for our teams. But one is called Rhinoceros Success. It's like a children's type book.
Yes.
I had everybody read that.
Know it.
Say, we're going to be a rhino. And then also about, what was it? Eat the Frog. And I think those are two books that are kind of mandatory. We pay for you, read this thing. So it's things like that that you're constantly doing, and you're just really sewing into your people in that respect.
Yeah, I do like that book. That's a real quick.
It's great. Guys like it. It's got a bunch of pictures in it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm going to set you up to help me today too later on this afternoon, Jason, for our inner circle call with this question. Because we're talking about later on, we're going to be talking about accountability and with goals and things like that. What have you learned about holding people accountable without killing morale?
Wow. I mean, I guess there's so many facets of this,
Hmm.
but the way that I've always looked at this, and man, I get so many opportunities to do this, it seems like on a weekly basis. But it's my responsibility as a leader to help people win. And part of that responsibility is just what you're talking about here in different facets, whether we're not like fully stepping into what we need to be, or there's goals that we set out that we're not reaching for, or certain even expectations of like job description, right? Like
Yeah.
for me, my thing is always like, dude, I want the people that come to us, I want them to be here forever. But even if they're not here forever, I want to leave something in them that makes them grow into a 10,000-pound gorilla in leadership, right? And part of that is that you got to have hard conversations. You can't veer away from it. And in that, and I think if you do that in love, there's an aspect of accountability that, like I told, this conversation came up yesterday in a situation where one of my direct reports had to speak to somebody. And it's that thing of like, I want them to not keep going through life and experiencing this, right? Like if at least if you shed light on it, you plant a seed of an opportunity for them to change now that's going to make them better, make them be able to do things, down the road to step into higher positions and things like that. If you lay back and don't have those conversations and don't bring accountability, then you're falling down on your job as a leader to help them grow into who they need to be. And so I get passionate about those things, not because I like confrontation or accountability, but because I want to see people grow. And that's my passion. And that's part of my purpose.
Yeah, I like it. Well stated. Well stated. With all this going on, man, like, and when we hear this question a lot, like, and we've heard it the past couple weeks with folks, I've heard it with some of the calls I've been doing. We're in the busy season. You guys are going all this kind of crazy growth. How do you personally stay grounded as a leader in the middle of this, especially the high pressure season?
Yeah, that's a great question. We just had this question in our operations team the other day because it's pretty stressful right now. I think for me, my faith is huge. And in a sense of like, for me, like this is purpose. I'm not here hitting a 9 to 5. This is what I was made for. And it doesn't mean it's not hard. It doesn't mean there's some days I want to just throw my computer through the wall. But the reality is this, I'm always coming back to belief, right? Where is my belief? My belief is this is my purpose. And when it gets hard, I think those are the things that I lean back into, that I kind of rest in and reset in. And I think also, one of the other things that I kind of thought that I do on this type of thing is work it out. Like just practically, like when it's stress, like my workout is very important to me in the midst of the day to have the balance. And so making sure that that's in the forefront. And then lastly, and this might be simple, man, just like sometimes in my office, I just crank up some AC/DC back to black and just let it blow out. Right. So man, there's something about that I think releases the endorphins, reset some things, and just get you ready to go gear.
All right, that's a good one. I like it. I like it. Let's jump into just differentiation in the industry. I mean, obviously, you guys are doing it, at least from what I can see. You and Park are doing. What do you think most contractors overlook when it comes to standing out in the market?
I mean, I think it's back to what I mentioned earlier. It's simple things. I think it's operating in integrity. If you screw something up, fix it, right? And I think the thing of good customer service, that's really huge for us, customer experience. But probably the thing that I always talk about with our team, both in operations and sales, is good communication. over communication is what I say. The one thing that I know that the customers love, they love good communication, whatever that looks like, whether it's email, text. I always like say, give them a call. But I think those are things that are very practical. But if you're doing them and you're consistent, man, I'm telling you what, I don't know how you don't grow.
You talked about customer experience and how important it is for you all. What are you doing to stay in front of that as you grow?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that we did is we put in bonuses around it, right? Based upon customer experience on what people give us feedback as. We do surveys. And we focus on that. It's not like one of those things we just email out. No, we call the customer until we get them on the phone and we ask them questions and we do a 1 through 5. And so it's been amazing to see what their feedback is related to that particular project and what their experience has been. And we've been able to implement that. And if there's some things that are bad, right, then we can address them right then. And I think that's and then those are actually tied to bonuses as it relates to our operations team. So I think that's how much we really value that piece. And one of the things that we're doing right now that as we continue to grow, and that's the thing with growing too, like you got to figure out like, what are non-negotiables? Customer experience is a non-negotiable in my growth, right? So that is a piece right there that we're going to make sure that we protect as we grow and make sure that things are in place that we can have some sort of feedback along those lines to make sure that, things are going great.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I know you're a big proponent of personal development. You're in TCS. We've been talking about goals this month, and you were. I remember. I think it was 2 weeks ago on the call, and I mean everybody was pretty jacked up, but you were. You could see it in your face, and you're like ready to go and tear into something afterwards in a good way. How has being part of the TCS community helped you grow as a leader?
I think it's just been great to get around people, the old expression, iron sharpens iron.
Yes.
To get in a room with a group of people that are going the same direction, right? They're all wanting to grow. And that's a great place to be in. It's like I've heard the statement, get in the right room, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like this is a place that I have found that you're in the right room. And I love the fact of like when people mention things that they're going through or things that they've seen that works, it's just powerful because you're getting real life tested feedback, right? And then you're like, oh man, I had that issue here or I had that issue there. And all of a sudden, here's the answer, right? And I think one thing is huge too, is like, as you're growing and you hit walls, like it's always, for me, has always been like, I need to find somebody smarter than me. I need to find, like, I'm going after the guy that's done it, right? I'm going after those people that have been able to make it work. And so sometimes that's reading a book, but a lot of times I'm getting in the room with somebody. I'm getting in a room with people that have been much more successful than I am. And as a result of that, I'm now positioned to ask questions, right? And then get that information and then, grow and not have to, reinvent the well, so to speak.
Yeah, good stuff. What's been your biggest takeaway at TCS since joining? If you could just narrow it down.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard. I would probably say that I would say the word access is the one thing that comes up to me to resources. I know that since I've been here, I remember Brian had done some sort of sheet on commission scales for salespeople, and he sent it out on the thing. I was like, oh my God, it's like gold. And so it's just, it's things like that access that helps me, like where I might have to go figure it out. Now you saved me so much time because I can pull that in and start to see how that can implement, or I can get ideas on how to move a certain direction to see that there. And I think those type of resources are really powerful when you got a million things on your plate per day and you're trying to fix 1,000 problems, and you can walk in a room and get some solutions and then walk out of there and feel like, oh my God, I got to win.
Good stuff. You ready for the rapid fire questions here?
Sure.
All right. So, favorite business or leadership book?
I mean, my first is the Bible, man. I'm just gonna
Okay.
tell you, dude,
I
that's
like it.
just about everything we need. It's the original.
That's good. I love it. Best productivity tool or app?
Google Calendar for me. I'm a big just schedule guy. Get it in there, make it work.
Yeah, with all you're doing, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. One person in business you'd love to shadow for a day.
I'd really like to shadow Ed Milet.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, I know he's got businesses, but I just that's one dude I'd like to definitely shadow for a day.
Very cool. What do you think's the most underrated skill for a contractor?
Communication.
Figured you were going to say that. Biggest lesson you've learned in the last 12 months?
Wow. I mean, I think for me, trust your gut instinct. I'm learning that more and more. And so that's kind of where I would stay with on that.
All right. And last one, finish this sentence. If you want to scale and stay sane, you need to
Hire good people.
I need that as my clip to share it with people. Yeah, I agree 100%. So wrapping up, what's next for Diamond?
Man, we're going big. 100 million is where we're going. That's our destination right now in the short term. So just scaling to get there. So I'm excited about being a part of that.
Yeah, and I would say that you would be open to, especially our members, reaching out to you, because I mean, I think you would be a pretty good hype guy when I'm having a down day. Maybe we could blast AC/DC together. But where can people connect with you, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, they're welcome to call me or email. I don't know if that would go out there or if I need to put that on here, but I'm happy to, entertain those.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. I figured that, yeah, I mean, it's always nice to have that community just to be able to reach out to somebody. So any final encouragement to owners, operators in the trenches?
Yeah, man, I think the biggest thing I would say to some people that might be out there going through it, don't quit. Just keep pushing. And I think the one thing that I've learned, and I kind of spoke to it earlier, is, get outside yourself, find people that are smarter than you. I mean, obviously this group that we're part of is awesome, but I think a lot of times we get busy and then, there's an aspect of pride that comes in. I'm just going to be honest about myself too. And, you just got to get out of the way and reach out. There's something about that law of attraction. When you start pushing and moving towards something, the answers start coming, right? And I think when you start asking questions and you start reaching out to people that have potential answers and you're looking for something, the nature of the law of attraction is going to draw that in. And that's what I would encourage people in that.
Good stuff. Well, thank you for being on. Hopefully we can have you and or Parker back again.
Parker would be good for you, for sure.
Yeah. All right. But thank you so much. I really enjoyed this. That's a wrap for today, guys, on the TCS podcast. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing, and keep winning. We'll see you next time.